Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about consoles versus PC for 2021. As new generations of consoles have reached the market, you have to make a decision. Now, just take an overview of history, basically understanding what the heck is a console. Console is a computing device specifically fine-tuned and tailor-made for video gaming. Basically, you buy a NES and you play video games on it. You buy a PlayStation 2, you play video games on it. So that's a very fundamental aspect of it. It's a computer, more or less, and it's gonna do one thing and one thing only. Now, all of these equipment, they generally assume you have a television to add on to, so they generally do not come with a display and speakers and all that jazz. So that's the whole point of it. Now it allows for uniform experience, because if you are familiar with computing in very early days, sound card wasn't a thing that was like every Tom, Dick and Harry could have that. So you could literally have a game that has a MIDI track as for audio track, and different people will literally get different audio tracks from the same MIDI files because their MIDI card played it differently. So you can understand, like, there was no uniformity in experience. Some person with cheap computer may get very low frame rate, some person with very high end computer will get very high frame rate, some person with a medium computer may find stuttering issues. So things of that nature was a very problematic aspect. However, the idea of a console, it gives you uniform experience. Basically, if for example NES had like a lot of clones, and in India we used to call it just video game players. We had a game like Contra. Now that Contra was very popular. Now here's the fun fact: I was playing Contra, I was playing the exact same Contra with the exact same experience, exact same everything as my friend who is like in a different state, different town. So that's the whole point, uniform experience. And it also allowed for a marketplace to develop. Now that marketplace is the core aspect. Console is never independent on its own. Console always have to have games for people to buy, and if there is games, people will buy the console. The more the console will sell, the more the games would be made for that said console. So it's always a give and take kind of architecture. Now you can understand this also in our mobile industry. Basically, why the heck androids are not as polished? Because Apple made sure the app store is very well polished, and because of that, app store is polished. The apps that were there, not in numbers but in quality, was much higher. People bought more iPhones. Seeing that there are more iPhones in the market, people started to make more apps, and that started to create a complete cycle, whereas like more iPhones are sold, more apps are developed, more iPhones are sold, more apps are developed. So that's the whole point. The marketplace is a very critical thing. Now this is a very early edition, like a pre-internet era kind of thing, but that's the whole point of it. Consoles had to have a marketplace for them, basically, where you can just go and buy games for PlayStation 2, because if you can't find a game for it, which did happen with some consoles, they fizzled out. So that's the reality of it. It's a computer tailor-made for video gaming. It's supposed to be added to a display, audio system, things of that nature, and then you're supposed to get uniform experience. Basically, every person who has this game in this console should have exact same experience, and there should be a marketplace for it, for the games. So let's understand the market, because at the end of the day, this is a basically profit driven industry. So if you make profit, awesome. If you don't make profit, you disappear. So that's the whole point of it. Now consoles were very tangibly successful. Basically, they took something that was considered as a niche or time wasting thing to on a same level as Hollywood. So that is tangible. Like if you start to say, oh, I'm dealing with an industry that deals in billions of dollar, people are like, whoa. That's the whole point. Things become serious, and consoles successfully did that. So it's no longer just time wasting. No, it's a big industry. People are making money on it, and once you start making money on it, it's serious. Now whole ecosystem was created. Like a console will be released, games will be released. If the games are successful, more people will buy a console. A whole ecosystem, whole race, consoles war, all of those started. So a ecosystem, a healthy ecosystem. Heck, brick and mortar stores also got into the fun, like game stores, gaming hubs, and all those started to pop out, where people had shops where they could buy gamings, exactly how comic book used to do that. So you can understand that, like, it's a big deal. And to give you a context of that size we are talking about, PlayStation 2 was sold around 155 million units. Basically, exact, like, think of it this way: if all I'm saying is like that many computers were sold of exact same model, you'll be like, wow. So that is a tangible big thing. However, the market is shrinking. Fundamentally, PS2 still holding on to that record, which is really bad for that industry. Simply think of it this way: it's like I made a mobile phone and it sold YOLO amounts, but I could never touch that up. That simply means your company is dying. And in a world which is governed by stock market, that's a no-no. That's a like, nope. So market is shrinking, and fundamentally you can see that PlayStation 4 was not making that much money, PlayStation 4 Pro not really that much, and very low chances that PlayStation 5 will also even touch 200 million. So I will be surprised if it actually touches 100 million, because PlayStation 4 only reached 120 million. So really the market is not expanding as it used to, and there is a very serious reason for that. The reason is we don't have that much spare money. So if you take an individual, let's say in early 2010s or even 2005, consoles, video game, it was the expenditure. So you take that person, you take his employment, basically how much money he is making per month, you take that same thing, you compensate for inflation, you take the same amount of money. But here's the deal, now we have a lot more things to spend money on. For example, hundreds of subscription that we have, like Netflix, YouTube, Amazon Prime, for some people who have Disney Plus, Hulu, and like these are little amount of money per month, absolutely true, but per month they are. So you end up losing a lot of money, and the biggest money waster that we have is smartphones. We don't think about it, but like think of it this way, like people are buying expensive phones, like in Indian rupees we are talking about like a $300 to $500 phones, or even $800, but they are still changing it every 2 years. That's a significant amount of money, poof. So that's also a very significant of expenditure. And if you're married, you have to think about those things. You're like, what is more important to you? Your family, Netflix account that like multiple people will use, or video game that only you will use. So we don't have that much spare money. Like we don't think about it. It's like everybody knows, oh, mobile, okay, I have to figure out the SIM cost. It's like, dude, you are changing the mobile phone on average 2 years. So that money, like you paid, that becomes divided by 12. That's a lot of money. So we don't have that much money, and the market is shrinking. That is really bad for the industry, the market, because again, I used to work in a gaming company that went poof. So trust me, I know. Let's understand that tech aspect. That's the market aspect. That's like finance and all that jazz. Tech aspect. Now tech aspect is very horrifying here, simply because console takes years to develop. So before an idea is started, it's like, let's say somebody's like, okay, let's make PlayStation 3. It's not like tada, PlayStation 3. Somebody will sit down, okay, which console we gonna make, okay, what type of horsepower we are looking for, what kind of teraflops we are looking for, what kind of driving resolution we are looking for. Like all those things will be settled. Like it takes years, multiple years before this is actually made, and then comes the hard part, supporting that damn thing. And that was like a worst example was PlayStation 3, simply because while it was amazing in terms of hardware, support was so bad that you can literally look at PlayStation 3 games that were released in very early on versus at the end of life. You're like, dude, are they in the same console? The graphics looks damn amazing. It's like nothing to like, whoa, how the heck that happened? Finally they figured out how to optimize for that 8-core processor. So support is also a very critical thing. You have to go to every game developers. It's like for example, game developer generally deals with game engines. For example, Unreal, CryEngine, Unity. These three things are kind of big and popular. Let's say you have to go to all of them, and you have to give them the source code. You have to give them a developer kit. It's like, okay, develop the game on this, figure things out, and if they fail to do their job, your console will flop fundamentally. So that takes years. Now game engine optimization after you have done that also takes years, because many times game engines are given to companies. Let's say for example, I was working on Sony PlayStation Spider-Man, first one, PlayStation 4 one Spider-Man. Now it was, the project started years ago. Like I was working on things before it was like, okay, this game will be the flagship for that. No, it started very early on, and I was in the art department was working. There was people who were working in sound department, it was working. There was programmer, they were working behind the scene, and sometimes it could easily take 3 to 5 years before the actual product is shipped. So think of it that way. Like that's amount of time, it's very serious. And backwards compatibility is very difficult to do, because it's not like when you're talking about consoles, many times in older consoles specifically, they were not computer, they were like dedicated computers, so they had different architectures. After a while people realized with brains, it's like, no, that's a bad idea. So most current consoles are x86, so basically inherently they are a computer, not just like in terms of like, okay, it behaves like a computer box. No, it is a computer. It is running an x86, same exactly as like, you know, your Threadrippers or things of that nature. So backwards compatibility is complicated simply because it's not an open system. It's not meant like, oh, you're supposed to install applications or things of that nature. So it's inherently, the exe system is not there. So it's a very complicated system, and not to mention DRMs. So you cannot expect to just, hey, I have a PlayStation 2 disc, I'm gonna pull that out and I'm gonna put that in my PS5 and it's gonna work. Good luck with that. Now again, it should in principle work. It does have enough horsepower to do it. It's just Sony does not want you to do that. But compare that to a computer, I can literally open up my old CD collection of a game, let's say IGI. I can literally put that and I can play fundamentally. So backwards compatibility is really, really bad on this, because somebody has to actually sit down and configure these things. Then we come to another aspect. The sole reason consoles were dominating the market, making the gaming such a big deal, was very simple. It was much cheaper. Fundamentally, when PS2 was launched, you could not have spent the similar amount of money and get a similar amount of computer, no matter what you have done. When PlayStation 3 came out, same thing happened. But again, the gap was like before computer caught on, that was like a bit shorter. And now when you're talking about now, it's like, yeah, you can get the same performance, but it will cost you more. And by the time 1 month or 2 years, the price will go down very literally. So fundamentally, the PC development is going so fast, so rapidly, that best case scenario right now, as in like PlayStation 5 and Xbox S series, Xbox X, goddamn weird names, those series, they will be outdated right now. If you buy, like, let's say AMD series, which is Zen 3 architecture, mind you, both of these consoles have Zen 2 architecture, so fundamentally you can buy Zen 3 right now. Good luck finding the stock, but you can find that. And world ended in 2020, that's why the pricing is so high. And then Zen 3 you can buy, and then you can buy RTX 3000 series. Fundamentally, you will have more performance. And what about pricing? It will be very close. It will be like compared to, let's say, $400 to $500 versus around 600. So you're very close. And in next 1 year or 2 year, the price will definitely go down. So the console went from something, or you bought it and it was like a thing that you had for like 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, to something that is like, it's not running very long. And not to mention, the worst example was PlayStation 4, simply because they had to release PlayStation 4 Pro. Same happened with Xbox One also. They had to release a different version, Scorpio, I think, to compensate for that. They are not lasting as long because of PC development is so fast. So tech wise, fundamentally, the tech no longer works in its favor. It was there was an era where it's like, oh, I bought PS2, good luck finding a equivalent in PC. Right now it's like, yeah, you're saving $200-300, but a computer can do hundreds of more things. So tech wise, it's no longer a supported model. Now let's come to the development aspect, and this is the painful part because I have actual experience with that. So it's no longer clean and simple. That was the whole selling point of console. It's like you just make the game for it. That has changed fundamentally. Right now, any game studio that is working on it, they had to develop game for multi-systems. And I'm talking about exclusive titles. I'm not even talking about cross-platform fundamentally. So for example, a game like PlayStation exclusive Spider-Man Miles Morales, it has to be made for PS4. It has to be made for PS4 Pro, otherwise it will not run at 4K properly. PS5 Fidelity mode and PS5 Performance mode. So 4 configurations have to be created of a singular game. What does that mean? That simply means the game is inherently designed for PS4 and it has some sliders that turn on at PS5 Fidelity mode. For example, PS5 Fidelity, the biggest slider that turns on is again, texture pack goes bigger and all that jazz. There is a ray tracing turns on at that point in time. If you disable ray tracing, you go from 30 frames per second to 60 frames per second of performance. So that's the whole point. So that's the thing that's supposed to be avoided. That was the whole point. Developing on PC requires something similar. It's like, fine tune for NVIDIA driver, fine tune for AMD driver, fine tune for DDR2, fine tune for DDR4. Like that was the whole point of it. Computer. That's why people did not want to develop for it. It's just like now the consoles are the same. And good luck anybody trying to develop for both console and PC. So Xbox also has the same thing. It's like Xbox One has to be supported. You can't just drop the support because again these consoles are no longer teaching that around 10-year mark. So console 1X, Xbox system small one, SX, Series X. So you get the point. Fundamentally, and any game developer, the moment you are like, okay, develop for all these, they're like, okay, find the smallest one, find the weakest link, design the game for that, and then they just crank up the slider. So fundamentally, Spider-Man does not look like, whoa, ray tracing cool, but that's a slider function. Like you have games right now on PC games, like 2-3 years ago, PC games where just like, okay, RTX 2000 series card came out, so like just turn it on. So fundamentally, games are always made for the lowest denominator. So texture pack, we used to work on that. It's like, let's say we made the texture for 2K. It's like, our requirement, spec sheet requirement will like make texture for 2K. By the time it actually reaches the game, it's like 512. What the heck? 4 times smaller, simply because they had to make sure it runs on the lowest equipment. That's the problem. So even though, let's say PS5 has the oomph, it has the horsepower, the game developer will never approach it, simply because, hey, they want to make sure the game looks at least manageable in PS4. So that's the whole point. And PC marketplace was really, really, really bad. Thankfully, it has changed. It has become much better, and that was thanks to these two partnerships, Steam and Epic Games. Simply because before this, there was no marketplace, and that's the core aspect of gaming. You have to have a marketplace where people can go, I'm gonna dump my stuff here, you're gonna take care of the distribution. And Steam was like, I got this, fam. They are doing exceptional job though. Like, just try to figure out how many games Steam ships every month. It's mind-bogglingly huge. The amount of money they are moving from point A to point B. Wow. And you never want Monopoly, Epic Games also joins in. Heck, I'm getting big AAA titles. Again, few years older, but AAA titles for free. It's like GTA 5, take it and go. Don't take it and go. A whole Batman series, take it and go. It's like, wow, I'm getting AAA titles, and you may be like, okay, those are old titles. Try to buy them for your consoles. Buy them. Do not be like, okay, bundle packs and all that, like a monthly subscription base. That's the whole point. So development for these consoles are no longer as straightforward. First, it takes years to figure these things out, and before those years are out, you're like, okay, I have finally figured out how to make game for PS4. PS4 Pro is out. So fundamentally, development cycle is no longer like smooth sailing. It's like, really, it's just a computer with extra steps. So let's understand computer at this point in time. It's a much better financial option. So if you are an individual who has the money, go for console. Fundamentally, it's a better experience simply because you can do it now. Now, if you are like serious about gaming and all that and tournaments, you have to be mindful of the fact that esports and tournament, most of them happens in PC. Fundamentally, most of them are happening in PC. So if you're serious about the gaming, quote unquote, you have to touch computer, or you most likely you will have both of them. And another aspect is exclusive titles. That was the main selling point. While computers does have more exclusives than every other thing combined, exclusives like God of War, basically Horizon Zero Dawn, Death Stranding, all these things have some value. Like Halo does have some certain value. People are like, dude, I will willingly buy a console just so I can play that game. I have met people. I had one friend who actually did that, so I know there are people who can do that, who can value game to that extent. That's also is a changing scenario right now, because Sony had made a commitment. Now again, I do not know whether they're gonna honor the commitment or not, but they have made a commitment, and early signs are good that they're gonna make sure all the first party titles will be released to PC in 3 years time, especially if they are very exclusive. For example, Horizon Zero Dawn and Death Stranding now can be bought for computer, so you can play those games on much higher frame rates. For example, I was like shocked, like a Horizon Zero Dawn is running on 30 frames per second. I'm like, dude, that game needs 60 frames per second. So that's the whole thing. So exclusive is no longer like, wow thing. And not to mention Halo next version supposed to be like directly just go for it. Forza Horizon, I also worked on that. That's also ticket and go. So fundamentally, all those exclusives, they are being ported to PC directly. Sooner or later, it's gonna happen, because marketplace is shrinking, and because my company died, I know for a fact that there is a serious real cost. People will be like, dude, if you are forcing us to make the game, otherwise I have to make the game per piece game much more expensive. So game will go from $60 to $100. Nobody's gonna buy that. We don't have that kind of money laying around, especially the fact that world ended in 2020. So more exclusives are no longer like that safe bet that used to be. And PC will reward you with one very serious thing. If you can wait and watch, it's a mind-bogglingly awesome strategy. Like, you can take exclusive games, you can take very high-end games, AAA title games, and you can have them for 1/10 of the cost. Like, you can take an example, let's say Doom Eternal. It's like averaging cost is around 4,500, and if you wait for a sales, summer sale or things of that nature, damn, it goes to 1,500. Sometimes one of my friend was lucky enough to find it for 900. First party, legal, everything is awesome, all the bugs and patches taken care of. So fundamentally, if you have patience, PC is a much better financial choice. And if you are a lot of money, again, PC is still a better choice, simply because you will have much more performance. So pro level games are available for cheap. So reality is, I do not see consoles surviving for more than 2 or 3 generations at this point in time, and every generation timeline will be shrinking. See the gap between PS1 to PS2, PS2 to PS3, the gap is shrinking, and then PS3 to PS4, and PS4 to PS4 Pro, that was released very early on, and PS4 Pro to PS5, the gap is shrinking. So fundamentally, the evolutions is happening much quicker, and they cannot keep up with computer, because computer is untethered. And not to mention, now we have marketplace on computer. So that's the whole thing. So fundamentally, as a game artist, I do understand the fact why the heck people wanted a console, but reality is console is now as messed up as computers. So this was my presentation on basically consoles versus PC. I hope you liked it, learn from it. In that case, please hit the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.